understand habit change and how habit change can really impact our life. So, how we can embrace that habit change, how we can explore the power of habit, and then discuss specific strategies to really help you create a successful change in your life. So, oftentimes, when we talk about different things that we need to work on, we talk about the problem, but we don't talk about the solutions. And sometimes the problems that we encounter, the challenges that we encounter in life are very complicated, but often the solutions to those problems are pretty simple. It's just a matter of taking action. And so I really want to focus on specific strategies that are going to help empower you. Educate you and equip you. A lot of the things we'll talk about today maybe aren't new to you. It may just be a reminder of things that you already know. And so often that's just what we need is a reminder, a refresh. The more that we learn and that we grow in a specific area in our lives, the less we're going to learn new information. It's just going to be plugging back in to get some more inspiration, borrow someone else's motivation, maybe. And then you might learn a new thing or two. And so that's my goal for y'all today is to be inspired and maybe learn one or two golden nuggets that you can take away. Another good quote that Aristotle is attributed as saying is, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit." And I think that's so important because oftentimes we think that what is required is perfection. And we think that we have to be perfect, all in or all out. And that kind of all or nothing thinking is really what causes us to, only really think about goal setting and resolutions and things at the new year. Oh, well, I'm not perfect, so I didn't get that done, so I'll just wait until next year or, next month or next time. And really, we have to think about being excellent in what we do in our work as being something that we show up and we work on every day. And consistency, showing up every day, doing our best, taking another little step forward is going to be much more helpful to your long-term success and your habit change than trying to show up perfectly but inconsistent in that perfection. So, with mindset, we really have to think about self trust, self compassion, and self belief. It all starts with yourself. And so, if we don't trust ourselves, if we don't have compassion for ourselves, if we don't have belief that we are capable of making habit change, then it's going to be a self fulfilling prophecy. And the reason that I can talk to y'all about this is because I'm someone who has had to learn how to develop self trust. And I'm not perfect at this at all. I have definitely had to learn self compassion because I have a strong inner critic that tells me how I could do something better. And then self belief, that's something that, you can be an encourager of others, but are you an encourager of self? Do you have belief in yourself and in your own abilities? And so oftentimes we think about challenges or life circumstances really impacting us. And so we'll think, oh my goodness, this thing has happened to me. It's not my fault. I can't do anything about it. And we often try to label things as being good or bad or healthy or unhealthy. And we'll try to place blame or we'll try to find fault, who's responsible. And really the situation that I want to kind of, explain today in the best that I can in the short time we have together is that regardless of any of those circumstances, wherever you find yourself in life, it is your responsibility to be able to take what may be a challenge and what may be a hardship and really do the best that you can with that situation. Because so much of what we face in life is out of our control. We have areas of control that we can work on, but for the most part, the things that we feel overwhelmed by, the things that we feel challenged by that are problematic for us, are not really 100% in our control. But our attitude, our effort, how we show up to our world, that is within our control, and that is our responsibility. I once heard a psychiatrist, Dr. Daniel Amen, say that it's our response and our ability that makes it responsibility for us to do our best with what we're given. And so it's, actually taking the response that we can have toward a situation and our ability to be able to change how we show up for that. So we're taking ownership or responsibility. And when we don't take responsibility for what we can control, then we're giving our power and our agency away to that problem. And so I'll share some more personal examples throughout the presentation than I normally would when I teach on cardiovascular health. That's very straightforward and pretty clinical, but something about, habit change. I need you to know that I have been through some difficult times in life. I'm going through some difficult times in my life, and the circumstances around our lives don't have to be perfect for us to be able to do good habit change or to change our mindset. It requires more effort, and it certainly is something that is challenging, but we can do it and we can show up well. So I hope that's encouraging for y'all. Some tools to help create a more positive mindset, things like gratitude practicing, journaling and reflection, mindful moments. So taking some time out of your day, maybe 5 minutes, in the morning or 5 minutes in the afternoon, to really just sit and pause, maybe go take a break, maybe walk around your building, and maybe walk outside if the weather cooperates, and just have a few minutes that you can take for yourselves. Meditation, I think, is really helpful. Sometimes that might just be listening to soothing music, or it might be actually doing a meditation. It might need to be guided, and it might need to be something that you download for free on your phone. Maybe get a free meditation app and let someone walk you through a guided meditation for 2 or 3 minutes. That makes a big difference in how we feel about ourselves and our world and our circumstances, even though it feels like it's just 3 minutes. What could that do for me? Sunshine and nature are so important, especially being around water. There's a lot of good research coming out that, showing up for 20 to 21 minutes a day outside can really reset a lot of our chemical and hormonal responses. Our cortisol levels will start to decrease around 21 minutes when we're outside. And it's important that when we're outside that we're with people that we enjoy, and that aren't causing added stress. So, it's, walking with someone that is going to be, talking about upsetting things, or maybe it's a spouse or a loved one that is not in the same headspace as you. Maybe you take some time out to walk by yourself so that you can get that good meditation and reflection in. That can make a huge difference. It also helps with your vitamin D synthesis, and there's so many other, benefits, health benefits, and mental health benefits to being outside in nature. And so that's a great one to get some movement in and really start to see your goals take hold in the new year. And then I always encourage you to get to know yourself in the season of life that you're in. We go through lots of transitions throughout our lifetime. And oftentimes when we get into our forever job, the job that we envision ourselves retiring from, we've gotten married, maybe we've had children if you chose to have children, and we're able to have children. Maybe you're through with school, so you've graduated. Some of you may still be in graduate school, but you're kind of through the early adulthood life milestones, and you can get really stuck in a rut. You can feel like life is just pretty much the same. We don't have a lot of new interesting things to look forward to. And that can really impact our mindset. So I want you to reflect on the season of life that you find yourself in. Are you kind of through some of those first early milestones of life? And if so, how long has it been since you've done something new for the first time? I think that's really important to think about, because having something to look forward to, having something on the horizon that you're planning for can be really impactful. And that could be a weekend getaway, it could be a week-long vacation, or it could just be meeting up with a friend that you want to have coffee with and haven't connected with in a while. So all of those things will help you with your mindset. Another tool I want to talk to you about is positive reframing. This is probably my favorite tool that I learned through my health and life coach certification. I really think that we need to teach everyone how to do this, starting in kindergarten or earlier, but formally, I think we should tell every kindergarten teacher how to do this and how to teach this so that they can then teach our kids. But positive reframing, you also can use neutral reframing if you're not to a place where positive reframing works. But it's called the coaching model, and it's where you look at your circumstances, your thoughts, your feelings, your action, and your results. And you go in this order. So your circumstance might be that you're working while caring for children and aging parents. During the pandemic, I said, you're trying to work while also trying to manage a pandemic. It might be that you're working and you're trying to go to graduate school. It might be that you're working and, and you're wanting to get married and have children. Whatever the situation is for you. Maybe you're working and you're thinking about retirement and what retirement's going to look like after you're no longer working full time. Whatever your circumstance is, the thing that you tell your best friend or your spouse or partner, or maybe your coworker, whatever challenge you're having in your life right now, that's your circumstance. And then your thought is usually something like, oh, this is really hard, or my life is really hard. And when you think a thought like, my life is hard, then your feeling usually is probably something like overwhelm. You might feel anxious, you might have some feelings of depression, but we're going to say overwhelmed for this. And then when you feel overwhelmed, you often don't take any action because you feel stuck. And so you're having a stress response to the feeling of overwhelm that you created by thinking that your situation, your life was so hard. And so the action then is that you don't usually do anything. You have that, fight or flight response. And we often don't talk about the freeze response, where we feel so stuck and overwhelmed that we just don't do anything. We just freeze in place. And usually when we're saying things like, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what to do next. I don't know what's happening. I feel like I don't know what's the next right step. That's usually because you're having the freeze stress response. And then the result when you don't take action is that life really is stressful, and life really does feel hard because you're stuck in this cycle of feeling like you don't know what to do and feeling overwhelmed. And that can lead to rumination, where we're just constantly thinking about the difficulty. We're constantly thinking about how hard things are. And that really can feed things like anxiety, situational depression. And you can get into a place where it's hard to climb out of that. And so, if that's true for you and you think that you need professional help, we have a lot of great resources here on campus for mental health counseling and coaching and that sort of thing. If you need those resources, we definitely have those that we can direct you to. But if it's just a matter of this just feels hard and you think you just need a little boost of encouragement, you can retrain your thoughts and you can think new thoughts and helpful thoughts and things like, I am strong and I can change things if I want, or I have survived something like this before and I'm okay. Those kinds of positive thoughts can lead to better feelings and affirmations for you. And so if we do decide to change this thought that life is so hard, or this situation is so hard, then we can slowly begin to change our thinking. The model itself will change, and then we'll start to slowly change our lives. And the thing about this is a continual work in progress. So this is not a one and done solution. This is every time you think a thought that's not helpful, that's not serving you, you have to kind of capture that thought and do this reframing. And I really recommend that you write this down. It can be on a sticky note, it can be in your notes app on your phone. But while you start practicing this, write down the circumstances and the unhelpful thoughts and feelings and the things that you're doing in terms of actions and results. And eventually it will become so second nature that you automatically start retraining those thoughts without having to be so conscious of it. And so I want you to notice that in this situation, the circumstance doesn't change. So I'm still working while trying to, care for children and aging parents. That circumstance didn't change as our example, but the thought, I'm strong and I can change things if I want, or you could say something like, I'm strong and I'm capable and I can change things if I want. When you say that out loud, you can see that you feel more hopeful, you look more hopeful. And when you do feel more hopeful and optimistic, you often do start to take action. You get to work, you make the phone call that you need to make, you send the email that you need to send. And then because you've taken that positive action, you feel unstuck, you start to feel a little more motivated. And the result is that things do start to change. Y'all, I know how simple this sounds because when this was taught to me as a student of this life coaching program, I was like, this is not impactful enough. I don't think that this is going to make such a huge difference for me. And I started, using this tool because I was required to, quite frankly, for my program. And I realized that it is a simple solution that we all should use, that we kind of intuitively know, but we don't practice. And it does really make that big of a difference. And I'm an example of that. So moving right along, focusing on what you can control. So your goal is not to change the situation if you can't change it. Obviously, if you can and if the situation is bothersome to you, then do that. But our goal is not to get rid of all of our negative thoughts and feelings. That's really not possible. The thoughts and feelings that pop up in our brains that we feel in our hearts, those are going to happen. Those do change over time, but usually those are pretty automatic. And it's what we feed ourselves. It's the things that we're putting into our bodies and brains that are helping to shape that. So you want to be knowledgeable and cognizant of that. But our goal is really to respond differently, to do something that feels more helpful and that serves us better. So always get in the habit of asking, is this thought or is this thing or is this action serving me? Is it life-giving? If not, then you want to think about changing that and doing it slowly over time. So don't worry about what you can't control. The things that you can control are usually things like your attitude and your effort. And there's some other examples here. The people that you follow on social media, the news outlets that you tune into, how you speak to yourself, how you speak to others, the boundaries that you set for yourselves. That's something that you can control. And then I created this Venn diagram as part of this, just presentation here. I included it because I think it's so important to look at the things that matter and the things that you can control, and where those overlap. That's where you should really invest your time and your attention and your focus, because that's where you're going to see the most impact. There are a lot of things that you can't control in life that are super important. And that's hard. That can lead to despair if we focus on that too long. But also, there are things that you can control, but that in the grand scheme of things, micromanaging that or trying to control it is not going to serve you in the long term. It's not going to get you toward those goals, which is probably really what you're focusing on habit change. You want to change your habits because there's probably a goal that you're also trying to chase. So 2 recommended readings that I like to tell people about when it comes to habit change is Atomic Habits and The Power of Habit. So Atomic Habits is written by James Clear. He has a great newsletter and website full of resources. He actually was inspired by reading Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit. And both are really great reads and really can supplement what we talk about today. But the thing is that James Clear talks about focusing on 1%, of making, a change that you're going to be 1% better tomorrow than you are today. And that's not focusing on your neighbor or your colleague or your spouse or partner, or your kids or your best friend. It's, how can you be 1% better tomorrow, and really gets you to focus in on yourself and not looking at, this kind of comparison that we can sometimes get in the habit of. So the power of habit, Charles Duhigg talked about people recognize intuitively how much their lives are habits. And there's a study out, there's several studies out that even put this rate a little higher, closer to like 54, 56%. But Charles Duhigg cites in his book a study that was done at Duke University, in the last 10 or 15 years, that said that about 40 to 50% or 40 to 45% here of people's daily actions or habits are unconscious decisions. And so the things that we're waking up and that we're doing every day, about half of that is going to be things that we just do automatically. So think about when you get up in the morning. What is your routine? You probably aren't consciously thinking about, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and then I'm going to do the next thing, but you're automatically getting up and, brushing your teeth and showering, and maybe you're fixing morning coffee or tea. You do those things kind of intuitively without thinking about them. You might drive to work, or probably more likely drive home from work, and you don't even really remember your drive home because you're just in that habit of doing it. And so you kind of go on autopilot. The reason that our brains go on autopilot when we're driving or when we're brushing our teeth is because our brains need to conserve the caloric intake that we're putting into our bodies. And so if it can go on autopilot, it's going to use less energy, less calories for us to be able to really focus in on what we need to do. So our brain's trying to go into that power save mode by being automatic. That's great for survival, but it's less great when you're trying to actually change habits that aren't really healthy or aren't serving you. And so you've got to be super intentional about those times where maybe you're wanting to cut out your morning coffee and you've already, turned the coffee maker on in the morning before you even realize it. And so because you've started the steps, you're like, well, I don't want to back out now. I'll just go ahead and drink this cup of coffee. I just won't drink any more tomorrow. So what you need to do is you need to move that coffee maker, or you need to put a note on it, don't drink me, something like that, so that you have a reminder, a visual reminder that, hey, I'm not doing that habit anymore. Because maybe your spouse or your partner or your roommate or somebody in your house needs the coffee maker. Maybe it's not realistic for you to hide it for while you're trying to make that change. But what you can do is you can make a visual cue to say, oh yeah, I'm not doing that anymore, or I'm not doing that right now. So habit change can really be the foundation of health and wellness. I believe that it is for everyone. It's necessary to achieve our goals and to meet milestones, just like stress is. Stress, we talk about stress as if we want to eliminate all stress, and that's not realistic. We need some healthy forms of stress to keep us at our best. It's just necessary for us. And so it's not realistic to be totally stress free. I joke and tell people that that's a podcast in a playlist on Spotify, but that is not reality for most of us. And habit change is really about discipline, not motivation. So I tell you that you sometimes need to borrow motivation, and you do. You need motivational moments. You need inspiration. You need talks like this that hopefully, kind of re-engage you and re-inspire you. But you cannot live off motivation to be able to make habit change. And I know this personally. One of the personal stories I'll give you is that, 3 years ago, maybe closer to 4 years ago, I was morbidly obese. And there's three categories of morbid obesity that most people recognize in healthcare. So I had a BMI over 30. It was actually closer to 32 or 33 for a BMI, which is not the gold standard of anything. It's just a metric. And, I was in level 2. So level 3 is the highest level of morbid obesity. And I was in level 2 of morbid obesity with a lot of health challenges. And over the course of the last 3 years, part of the reason I went back into health and life coach certification was because I knew I needed some more tools to be able to lose the weight and get to a healthy place in my life. And so I did that, started my journey, signed up for a boot camp, worked with a personal trainer, went and did nutritional counseling here at UMC on campus, and did a lot of work on habit change to be able to lose almost 82 pounds, around 81 pounds right now is how much I've lost. And I had to fight for every single pound. There was not one single pound that left my body that went easily. And I'm still in the process of working toward, what would be wellness and weight loss goals for me. I use that as an example because it's an easy one and it's a personal one. Your habit changes and your wellness goals don't have to be about weight loss. Certainly, that's just one part of wellness. There's so many other things like fitness and mobility and functional exercise, and maybe you have financial goals that you want to make different habits around. Right now, one of my other goals is to really be conscious of my spending. And so I am doing a challenge on Instagram just for me, just to hold myself accountable, where I get an emoji, a certain emoji if I save money that day. I get a certain emoji if it's planned spending. Like yesterday, I had to pay a copay and I had to do that. So I got a different emoji. And then I used a third emoji to denote that maybe I just went through Starbucks and kind of, mindlessly got a coffee. I put one there. And that's really helping me be intentional about where I'm spending money and what I'm spending money on. And so I'm just making a quick little note on, okay, this is what I spent money on kind of unnecessarily today. And so it's just creating awareness, and it's creating a routine of thinking about things that we often just kind of mindlessly swipe our credit card. That's another example. You might have some habit changes that you want to make around work, or you might want to set healthy boundaries in your relationship. There's so many things, but just know that you need the discipline of showing up every day, consistently, imperfect at what you're doing, but knowing that you're going to lose that motivation probably within 30 minutes after you get off this call. If you feel motivated and inspired right now, it's probably going to be gone by about 30 minutes or maybe an hour after the call. So you've got to really kind of intentionally think about how you can build that motivation and inspiration into your day. I do it by having friends that encourage me. I do that by having an app that sends me a motivation every morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. I have that built in my routine at night when I practice my gratitude. I just want to tell you not to make that a chore. Any of the things that I'm recommending, if you dread it, if you make it so impossible, so hard so expensive or so fancy that you won't do it every day, and you take the fun away from it, then it's going to negate a lot of the benefits that you could see from it. So it doesn't mean that you have to list gratitudes every day and have a specific number. That's just a goal. But maybe it's just that you take a minute, you have a mindful moment, and you think about, one person that really impacted you positively that day. That might not be formally writing it down, but that just may be sending them a text message and saying thank you for showing up, or thank you for being a good friend. So that motivation is going to come and go, and you just need to plan for that. You're going to be much more successful if you plan to have challenges versus kind of thinking, rose-colored glasses and everything's going to be great, because that's not how life works, at least not in my experience. So the power of habit, you have a cue and a routine and a reward, and that equals your habit. And so I'm going to go into this next couple of slides explaining that. And so the habit loop is set off by a cue, the trigger that tells your brain to go into automatic mode. Then there's the routine, which can be physical, mental, or emotional, and usually it's all three. And then there's a reward. So I'm going to go in this cycle to show you. I think this really helps illustrate it. So you've got the cue here, and you're going to go through a routine and reward. So this is the power of the habit loop. So a trigger that tells your brain which routine you need to use. So in the afternoon, I'm a few doors down from the vending machines, and around 3 o'clock or so, I hear the vending machine and the lots of people coming by to get a drink or a snack out of the vending machine. And usually that's a couple of hours after the people have eaten lunch. We usually break for lunch around 12. And so that's a couple of hours after our blood sugar starts to kind of, plummet a little bit, especially if we had a lot of carbs and sugar at lunch. We still have some more time in our workday. And then also that's usually where we start to see a shift in our body's cortisol levels, that hormone stress response that we have. And so we get to that point around 3 o'clock and our body just feels tired. We start hearing other people going to the snack machine or maybe to the break room. And so that's our body's cue. It's an environmental, behavioral, emotional response to, I'm just kind of feeling tired and blah. I need something to kind of pick me up. We might go and get some caffeine or coffee. And so the routine becomes that we go in, we actually go to the vending machine and we put our money in and we get our snack, we get our treat. And the reward is the positive stimulus that your brain tells you that the routine worked. So we take that first sip of drink, or we take that first bite of the food, or we get that little bit of jolts from the caffeine, and our body starts to have a little bit of a dopamine hit, a dopamine response, because so many of our neurotransmitters that are responsible for all of those happy feelings that we have, or not so happy feelings, are really connected to our gut or to our GI system. And so when we eat those carby, sugary things or caffeinated things, we really do have a true physical response to that. And our body rewards us by giving a little bit of dopamine. It's more complicated than that, but that's as complicated as we need to get for this. So at the root of this cycle, we have a craving. We have a craving for a break. We may have a craving to feel a little relief from maybe our sleepiness or whatever it is that's going on with us. And so we have to really identify the craving that's driving this habit loop. So we could still have the cue of, wow, it's 3 o'clock and we still have a ways to go and we're tired and we need a little bit of a boost. We still have that cue, but the routine could be, maybe we go outside and we get some water. Maybe we refill our water bottle on the way outside and we take a loop around the nearest little sidewalk that we can get some fresh air. And we still can get a reward. The reward is just usually a little bit harder to come by, and it usually doesn't have the same hit as like a Snickers and a Coke would, but you still can get a little bit of a reward. And the more that you do this cycle and you make it a healthy cycle, the more that you're really going to be addressing the true craving of what your body needs. And you'll be able to more easily replace the habits that you've had around that cue. Again, I used food as an example because it's one that I think we all can kind of identify with, but you can do this with anything. And so I'll tell you some common habit loops. There's a YouTube video here, and Miranda will share the PowerPoint with y'all in the chat at the end of the session. But there's some common habit loops that you can really identify for you. The ones that I picked are the ones I think that are the most universal. So your cue is that your blood sugar drops and you're low on energy and you're feeling overwhelmed because it's kind of back to school, back to new year, right? So we go grab the donut and the coffee that someone left in the break room. And then our reward is that our blood sugar goes up, we get a little caffeine, and we get a break. So maybe we get to talk to a coworker, our blood sugar is starting to stabilize a little bit. For the minute, it's going to drop again, right? And then we get a little bit of that caffeine boost that's going to kind of overstimulate us a little bit. And so again, another one could just be the coffee. You get low energy, you get some coffee or caffeine, and the reward is that you have an increase in caffeine and you feel better. You truly, it's not just mentally you feel better, you truly feel better from a physical standpoint. And so a healthier loop might be when you're feeling overwhelmed, that instead of going and reaching for that coffee or that donut, that you stretch, maybe you do chair yoga, maybe you go chat with a coworker, maybe you go refill your water bottle, maybe you go outside and get some good sunshine like we talked about. And the reward is really that you're moving your body and you took a break, and intellectually this is where you have to really give yourself a pep talk that you're doing the better thing by giving up the sugars and the carbs and the sweets and the caffeine. So those are just some examples of how you can break those habits. So the habit stacking that you need to do, it's always easier to establish a new habit when you stack it on top of one that's already established. For me, I think most people probably have the habit of brushing their teeth in the morning. And so when you brush your teeth in the morning, my example is if you wanted to take supplements, then you would want to put your supplements or your vitamins by your toothbrush so that you could take those vitamins while you're brushing your teeth in the morning. So have those out, have some water or a cup nearby. When you brush your teeth, then you're going to take your supplements. That's how you can establish your new routine. So you'll say, after brushing my teeth, I will take my supplements because it makes me feel healthy. So you're going to put the cue, when I brush my teeth, brushing your teeth is the cue. The routine that you're trying to establish is that you want to take your supplements, and that, the reward you're going to have is that it makes you feel good. It makes you feel healthy. It makes you feel accomplished maybe. And this is one that I actually personally used. I love to try supplements, and I noticed that I had supplements on my nightstand. I had supplements in my laundry room because it's near my bathroom. I had supplements in my bathroom and they were spilling out into these other areas. I even had them in my kitchen. And, my husband jokingly said, are we a health food and supplement store? Or are you actually going to take these supplements? Because I would buy them and that made me feel good, right? I had the cue of I need to be healthy. So I'm going to buy these supplements. And the reward is that I bought them, not that I actually took them. And so I had to take that a step further and say, wait, how am I going to actually implement this? Because buying the supplements does not actually make you healthy. So I want y'all to think about times where y'all do that. It's easy to do. Sometimes when we buy things, like we'll go in a Target run and you'll put things in your cart, or maybe you'll, do that on Amazon, and the item comes and it's not as exciting as it was when you ordered it, because you got the dopamine hit the moment that you put it in your cart and you purchased it, whether you're in an actual line or whether you're at home on your couch ordering from Amazon. The dopamine hit came from ordering the thing. And so you might get another little one when you actually get the package, but for some of us, we don't. And that's why our purchases just start to kind of, stack up and pile up. It's because we maybe didn't really need the thing. And that's where we have to create that intention. So more examples of habit stacking would be things like, when I turn on the shower in the morning, when the water's warming up, I'm going to do 10 squats or maybe 10 wall push-ups. When I wake up, I'm going to write down a couple of things that I'm grateful for. When I get in my car before I back out, I'm going to meditate for 3 minutes, or maybe do that when you get to work. Park your car and shut everything down, and then maybe meditate for 3 minutes before you go inside. It'll help you get in a good headspace before you go into work. It's really good to do that when you come home so that you leave work at work. When I drink coffee, I'm going to refill my water bottle. So I have a habit stack of that. When I walk into work, I'm going to take the stairs. I try to do that. I don't always, but I usually take the stairs down when I'm leaving. I'm really good at that one. Not as good about going up the stairs when I get to work. When I sit down for lunch or dinner, take 3 deep breaths. So this is one that I have to think about because I don't always do it. I'm one that tends to kind of, scarf their food down and go on. I think you learn to do that as a nurse, and in a lot of the jobs that we're in, we do that same habit of we eat our food whole, and really taking time to sit and chew our food and relax lets us get into that rest and digest mode and helps us really, take time to enjoy the food, be grateful for the food. But then it also gives our body practically time to digest the food, because we aren't what we eat, we are what we absorb and what we, digest from the food. So there's more steps to that. Sometimes we oversimplify it. And if we're not in, rest and digest mode, our bodies can't do the same level of work. So James Clear, the author of the book that I mentioned earlier, Atomic Habits, says that all big things come from small beginnings. So when he's saying atomic, he means like the atoms, when he's, kind of likening it to how small things are. And so he's really talking about making micro goals and micro steps toward being better, literally that 1% better every day. And so the power of tiny gains is looking at this exponential growth of 1% better every day versus 1% worse every day, and how over time, over the course of a year, that 1% better really does propel you forward. And it's about showing up consistently, like I mentioned, consistently imperfect versus, inconsistently trying to be perfect, because we know perfection is not achieved on this earth in this life. And so really wants you to think about identifying your triggers. What are those cues? What are the things that are having you spend money that you may not want to spend, or what's keeping you from working out, or what's keeping you from spending time with your friends and family? What's keeping you from your health and wellness and fitness goals? Think about those triggers. One example that I usually give with this talk is, dinner time at the Horton house can be pretty chaotic. I have 5 young children who are not so young anymore. They're ages 10 to 15. I have 2 sets of twins. I have a very rowdy dog. And it seems like that anytime it's time for dinner, people are calling the house, people are calling cell phones, someone's knocking at the door, maybe they're delivering a package. The dog is barking at someone or something, and it's just kind of chaos. And so the trigger for me, the key for me was that environment, the phone ringing, the doorbell ringing, and it's usually always at the same time. I hope that's not just at my house. I think that's probably universal. And, some kid is complaining, some kid is dropping something. It's just chaos, and it's a good kind of chaos, right? It's a good kind of stress. And so I had to think about, if I'm going to really enjoy dinner time, and I'm not going to be the mom that yells, and I'm not going to be the mom that's always stressed during dinner, what can we do? And so one thing is, practically, and I'm walking you through this so that you can think about your own solutions for your own particular challenges. But so we turned the phones off. Cell phones are in the bedroom charging. The house phone is on silent. We have a Horton kid that's designated to look after the dog. We have a Horton that's designated to go answer the door if there's somebody coming to the door. We have someone who helps clear the table. We have someone who helps set the table. We have someone who's in charge of trash now. We have someone who is a sous chef, and so they help whoever's cooking that night. And so we just try to think of ways to eliminate the problems that we have. And then I had to do the work of saying, okay, if something drops, if something breaks, if there's complete chaos in the house, how am I going to respond to that? And so instead of yelling or getting upset or getting stressed, which is what the human response to do is, in parent mode, you're like, what's going on? I want to try to, control the situation. It's okay, when this happens, not if, but when this happens, what am I going to do about it? And it's really taking a minute away. It's counting to 10. It's closing your eyes. It's taking a deep breath. It's working through the coaching model. It's deciding that you're going to show up how you want to show up versus how you feel like showing up, which is usually to be stressed and irritated. And so I think also having realistic expectations of not, if, but when, because stress is going to happen. And I just think we talk about stress so often like we should be stress-free, like I mentioned, and that's just not realistic. And so our expectations of what life should look like and feel like is often the root cause of why we feel so frustrated and kind of unhappy with things. And so I also want you to think about, is this a habitual problem? Does this happen every day at dinner time? For us, sadly, it did. What time of day does it happen? So I would say 5 o'clock, 5:30. How do you feel when it happens? I would feel overwhelmed and frustrated. Were there other people involved? Yes, our entire house is usually involved, and usually some neighbors and some UPS drivers and some telemarketers calling the phones. And then does, something happen right before or right after something else? And, I kind of walked that out for you. So you can do that sort of thing with everything in your life and really give yourself a good reflection of, okay, where are my stressors coming in? What can I do? So once you've identified those triggers, you can start to come up with a plan of how you can address them, just like I walked you through that I did with our dinner time situation. And I'm happy to report that dinner time is a much happier time in our house. So some steps to cultivate habit change. When you go to make the change, and we talked about habit stacking, we talked about being really, reflective and insightful about it. You want to write down what your intention is. For me, it was to have a peaceful mealtime so we can rest and digest and, not have any catastrophes. So what's your intention? Is it that you want to save money for a new trip or save money for retirement? Is it that you want to get into a good fitness level because you want to be able to play with your kids or grandkids more actively? Is it that you have a goal related to work? Maybe you want a promotion. Maybe you want to, if you're faculty, maybe you want to move into a new role. If you're staff, maybe that you want to move into a new role. Do you want to set, seasonal goals, maybe quarterly goals? What's your intention? Usually the intention is about a feeling. So do you want to feel accomplished? Do you want to feel productive? Do you want to feel needed? Do you want to feel like you've made a difference? That's your intention. That's how you know. The goal that you choose usually is not as important as the process of getting there and the feeling that you're trying to achieve. So list out the reason for wanting to feel that way, wanting to achieve that goal. For me, weight loss was not just about, I want to lose weight. It wasn't just an aesthetics thing. It was that I want to be healthy. I want to be able to play with my kids. I want to be a good example for my patients and my students. I want to have energy to do the other things that are important in life. And just because I knew that I was not in a healthy place with my physical health. And so those were my reasons. I wanted to feel happy and healthy, and I didn't want that to be a barrier to things that I wanted to do in my life. And so it wasn't just about I wanted to fit into, an old pair of blue jeans, which isn't as impactful. See the difference there? You have a bigger why when you identify what you really are wanting out of the goal. So then identify the possible obstacles and challenges. We like to eat in our building, and so that's a challenge for me. I have to make sure I bring healthy snacks and that I plan ahead for when I'm going to have a treat and make it worth it, right? When you count calories, you also have to count chemicals. How much is the food processed? And so you've got to make a choice, and if I'm going to use my calories and chemicals on a food, it's going to be my favorite food. It's not just going to be a piece of chocolate. It's going to be a brownie, or it's going to be a chocolate chip cookie. And so know those things that you can plan for those obstacles and challenges. Remember, not if, but when something goes off plan. Draft a plan, include solutions to those obstacles. Seek accountability. So this is really important for people who need external accountability. I'm going to mention a resource that's really helpful for this. It's called the 4 Tendencies. Some people need external accountability, others do not. But with external accountability, you need someone that you can just check in with. I have several people that I check in with related to goals and work related goals and personal goals. And I check in with them just via text message once a week. And it's just a quick, hey, I did the thing that I said I was going to do. It's not a long conversation. Follow the plan, really track and evaluate your progress. It's important to look in the rearview mirror sometimes and see how far you've come. And then maintain your motivation through scheduling that so that you, can develop the discipline. And the discipline is going to be what helps you form that habit, as I mentioned. All right, so setting your intention is something like, I will be the best version of myself by my next birthday. I love that when it's too vague to actually be a good intention, because what does your best version mean and how are you going to measure it? But, you want to set something that looks like a SMART goal regarding your intention. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. Sometimes people say relevant. You want to make sure that the intention is very clear. So this would not be a good one. It's a great thought, but it's not something that's easily measured or accounted for. Wayne Dyer wrote, "Our intention creates our reality," and I truly believe it. Walt Disney always said you had to be able to see it first and believe it before it became a reality. And I think we can really attest to the success that he's had through his lifetime with the Disney Corporation. And so we really do have to believe in ourselves and see it before we can create that reality for ourselves. So with goal setting, you want to look at long-term and short-term goals and daily routines. So most of our goals are big projects that are going to take longer than a few, days or a few weeks. And so break that down. What is the thing that I want to achieve this year? How do I want to feel when I meet this goal? And then what do I need to do on a monthly or weekly basis to reach that goal? That's going to be your short-term goals. So with a marathon, how would you prepare for a marathon? You're not just going to run. You're not just going to sign up for the race and run it. You're going to actually have to prepare for it. And then what are your daily routines? You need to be doing something every day to reach that goal. If you're not running every day, you need to be stretching. You need to be, hydrating. You need to be sleeping so that your body can rest and repair. And then map it out. So once you're clear on your goals and you have assigned, those daily, weekly, monthly tasks, then you have to schedule it in. So if it doesn't get scheduled, it likely will not happen. So make sure that you make an appointment with yourself. Put a date and a time to complete the task. That's why we show up to the dentist appointment, because we have the cue and the routine and the reward, right? We know we're supposed to go twice a year. We schedule it, we get a specific time and date. We know that hygienist and that dentist are waiting on us, so we feel badly about it if we cancel. We are likely going to get charged if we don't cancel soon enough. And then the reward is that you get your new toothbrush and you get a good report, hopefully from the dentist, and you have that clean feeling in your mouth, and you feel great about life, right? There's nothing like going to the dentist and getting a good cleaning. And so that is the routine and reward, but it happened because there was a consequence for not going. You were going to have to pay, or you were going to have to get kind of frowny faced when you go back next time. And you get the reward of you feel better, you get your new toothbrush, and you had a specific time and date. You've got to do all of that for everything in your life that you want to really intentionally work toward. Track your goals by checking in weekly. Some people check in daily. That's too much for me. But check in weekly with your goals, see where you're on track, see where you need work. And then I always say rinse and repeat as often as you need to. So make your habits easy. If you want to work out in the morning, put your clothes out the night before. If you want to read more, put your book on your pillow at nighttime so you have to move it before you can lay down and get in bed. If you want to send more thank you notes, keep those on hand. So I have thank you notes at work and at home and in my car, because you never know who you want to give a thank you note to. If you want to drink more water, you need to have your water always with you, right? So that you can always be drinking it. Those are the kinds of things that make life easy, make habits easy, and that gives you that momentum from feeling like you've accomplished something. That's why in the military and in a lot of other places, you'll see things about making your bed in the morning. It's teaching you discipline by making your bed every morning. It's also a small win. You've already had a small win for the day. And I'll tell this example. I would always find reasons why I couldn't do something. And the biggest thing that I had to do with my mindset was to figure out how I could make it possible. So forever, when I was trying to lose weight and I was doing all this health and life journey, exploration and just figuring out life for myself, I would say, oh, well, I can't do that. I can't make the bed first thing in the morning because I'm getting up and I'm going to clinical at 5 o'clock in the morning, and my husband doesn't get up until later. And so that just didn't work for me. I can't do that. And then one morning when I was really kind of feeling sorry for myself, I was throwing my own personal pity party. I was like, you know what? I cannot make the bed like how I would make the bed, but I can make my side of the bed. I can fluff my pillows and I can pull the covers up on my side. And my husband was like, what are you doing? You're waking me up doing that. So I got better at stealthily, making the bed without waking him up. But what I noticed after a few weeks of doing that is that when I would come home in the afternoon from clinical, my husband, who never made the bed, started making his side because I had made my side. And when I did that, it was such a moment for me, because it was a moment of, I'm going to change my mindset of how do I make this work versus, oh, I can't make this work. And now I feel bad because I can't be successful like those other people. So if you hear nothing else from me today, I hope that encourages you to look for the times where you limit yourself by saying, oh, well, I can't do it that way, or I can't do what she said, so I'm not going to do it at all. When you have that mindset shift, y'all, it is such a huge win in boosting your self-confidence, your self-compassion, and your self-belief, because you start showing up for yourself like you deserve, all of the good things that you truly do deserve. But you have to believe it first. So we love football here at the university. And so thinking about winning a championship, how you do that is not by just showing up to the game and playing, but it's in how you recruit your players, how you run your practices, how you manage your coaches, how you manage your mindset. Think about Coach Saban's, the process that he talks about. It's all about mindset and habits. And so that works for anything in your life, but I think that's a really great one. You're focusing on the systems that you put in place over these little goals. And those systems are based on how you want your life to work and function. So there's a level of organization that has to be done there. So this is a goal setting sheet that Carolyn McVicker and I created together. She and Miranda and Ashley do a wonderful job. They really are the Wellness Work Life office and are phenomenal. And so we created this to write down your goal, make it specific, make it a SMART goal, list out your accountability partner. So if y'all are going to do this work, think about who you are going to text this afternoon and say, hey, this is what I did today, and I want you to be my accountability partner. Is that okay? Positive affirmation. So put something about, I'm strong, I'm capable, I can lose the weight, I can save the money, I can make this career move. Put something positive there. And then just brain dump all the things that you think that you need to accomplish. If it's running a 5K, maybe you need running shoes. Maybe you need some bands to help you stretch. Maybe you think you need a gym membership. You don't, but maybe you think you do. List all of that. Maybe you need a water bottle that you can take with you. Then list your 4 mini goals, the 4 things that feel really achievable, and make those things be not the fancy gym membership or the new workout clothes. Maybe it's the shoes. Good supportive shoes are important. Maybe it's the water bottle. Maybe it's the accountability partner. Those can be the really small achievable goals to give you some momentum. And then how are you going to measure these? And then you're going to create your action map. So I've got this filled out for us on the other slide here. And I always tell people, step on the scale if it's about weight loss, buy the tennis shoes if you can, call the person. Everything needs to start today, not tomorrow. And it needs to start today, like right now. It doesn't need to be, oh, I'll do that after work, or, oh, I'll do that tonight, or, oh, let me think about it. It's like a roller coaster. When you get in that line, you just need to hop on the roller coaster and not think about it. Otherwise, you'll talk yourself out of it. So you just take the leap and do the thing, and always pick today in this moment to be when you change. So that's your start date and time. And then usually 3 months, I think, is a good time frame. 3 months is a quarter. It gives you enough time to really form the habit and start to think about, where you're going to be in that 3-month period. So decide on a meal plan, might be 2 weeks. Begin walking every day for 30 minutes. Might be, at 1 month you've done that and you actually have a walking buddy by then. And then when you've committed to it, then maybe you do want to join a gym. When you've proven to yourself, not to other people, but to yourself that you're going to really show up for yourself, then reward yourself with that, gym membership or the fancy workout clothes. So it's really important to understand your personality when you're doing habit change, things like Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies. And so I am an obliger. So I meet outer expectations, but I resist inner expectations. So that means that if I have something that's important to me, but my neighbor has something that's important to them, I'll stop what I'm doing to go help my neighbor. And so that makes me a good neighbor, but that doesn't do a lot of good things for me personally. You can go to Gretchen Rubin's site. This is her book here. You can get a lot of good resources. You can definitely read the book and glean even more. But knowing this about yourself will help you know what accountability you need to actually make the habit change worthwhile and helpful. Here are some things to prepare for success, and I'm not going to read these to you, but this is just a checklist of things that if you're feeling like you're struggling or getting stuck, then you can look at this. Honoring your wisdom and knowing what's best for you is really the one I want you to think about, because sometimes we prioritize what other people tell us or what a self-help book tells us, when we know that there's a deeper wisdom that we already have. And so definitely think about that as you start to embark on this journey. Be persistent. It takes about 66 days to form a new habit. It's not just, the one and done or the 3 weeks that we used to think it takes. It takes at least 66 days. And some people think even more like 90 days to really form a good habit. So be persistent. There's some things here that you can learn about habit stacking routines. And again, Miranda's going to pop this in the chat for y'all. How to break a bad habit. So a habit that's not serving you, make it invisible. So hide it. When I stopped drinking Mountain Dew, I had to take a new route home so that I did not see the fluorescent neon sign that I would sometimes just mindlessly pull into the drive-thru without thinking about it, because their Mountain Dew and their ice is so good. I know you locals know where I'm talking about. I had to, for 6 months, drive out of my way home so that I did not end up with a large Mountain Dew on my way home from class or clinical or wherever I was running errands. Make it unattractive, make it difficult to do, and make it unsatisfying. So these are some things that you can use to kind of, negate those bad habits, and I say bad in air quotes. But really, the more good things that you add into your life, the better. And we like to add, we don't like to subtract. So work on eating more fruits and vegetables, and then work on the fact that you want to cut out Cokes and coffee. Here's a habit tracker for you. And I know we're kind of coming to the end of our time. So if you need to go, you can, but go ahead and start putting your questions in the Q&A box and I'll answer those. There's a girl called Katie Moore Wellness on Instagram. She has some great resources, very, very inspiring and encouraging. She has this current habit and then a habit that she wants to stack. So this is the sheet that she made that I think is really, really helpful. Also, another tool called the habit contract of what is your goal? What's your consequence going to be if you don't meet that goal, and what's your reward as well? Who's your habit or accountability partner going to be? And then have you and your partner sign it. I recommend it be someone that you don't live with, because this can cause some frustration with each other. Let it be your best friend or your coworker. And then what's your intention? So take time to really think about what it is you want to kind of gain from this intention and this habit. And then just remember that finding balance looks different from everyone. So these stones are all stacked stones or Karens, and balance looks different for them. And what works for me may not work for you, and that's okay. So create some awareness. Again, just some more resources here, a little toolkit for you. Some mindfulness and meditation reminders. Just be present where your feet are. Let your brain and body rest. Some journal prompts for self-discovery. So you can go to this website, and there are things like limiting beliefs or feeling overwhelmed. I really encourage you, if you have any resistance to doing that and you're like, I wouldn't do that. Like, I like her other resources, but I wouldn't do that. Definitely do it. When you resist something, it's because it's probably going to really help you in the long run. And I know that from personal experience. Some other practical tools. Cultivate What Matters is a great resource, not only in the form of this book here in the Goal Planner, but also their website, Brendan Bouchard as well. The Start Today Journal by Rachel Hollis. That's all about writing down your dreams. So write down your dreams every day. Some other useful resources, the 5-4-3-2-1 technique, totally stress-free, really is a Spotify playlist, and it's amazing. They also have a 2.0, also amazing. Headspace, Calm, Buddhify are all great meditation apps here. Yoga by Adrienne for stress relief, a motivation app, and then getting outside in nature called Grounding with your bare feet. And then Brian Tracy talks a lot about time management. So successful people are simply those with successful habits. And I like to end with start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can by Arthur Ashe. We would love for you to follow us on our social media channels, and I will take your questions. And feel free to put in the chat if this was helpful, if there's something that I didn't cover or that you wish I had spent more time on. Miranda put on the Wellness and Work Life account the goal setting sheet and the habit change PowerPoint. This will be a YouTube video that Miranda will post to wellness.ua.edu, and feel free to share it out with your friends and community and colleagues. You have to be present to get credit for the class, but you can absolutely share this information out with anyone in your network. And we would love for you to do that. Thank y'all so much for the kind comments. I'm looking through. Thank y'all so much. There's been so much interaction in the chat today. That's great. And I know if y'all need to go, please feel free. I think this is a great pitch for us to have a part 2. Good. I'm so glad this has been helpful. Any other questions or comments before I close this out? Perfect. Would love a part 2. That's great. Good. I'm so glad this was helpful. Well, if you need some motivation, please feel free to borrow some of mine. I'm reading for y'all. I know that it's going to be a challenge to start. That's always the hardest part, is getting started. But just pick one thing and move forward on that goal. Don't try to change everything all at once. We do have one question. What did the studies show on how long to create a new habit? About 66 days to create the habit. And then you really have to do daily maintenance to maintain the habit. So 66 days to really get good and started. And then you really need to maintain it. Try not to miss more than one day. Once you start missing, a workout or start, forgetting about a change that you're wanting to make, once you've gotten 2 days in a row, it's just too easy for that third day for you to get back into that old habit, because that old habit is more ingrained than the new habit. And then eventually you'll override that, and it will be a habit to not do the thing you used to. So you just got to get to that place where the new habit takes over and it's more strongly kind of in your life and in your routine than the old habit was. I hope that answers the question. All right. Awesome. Well, I hope you'll have a great start to your new year. Happy 2023. And if I can be of help, please feel free to reach out. Thank y'all so much. This has been such a well-attended and really engaging from y'all's side of things webinar. So appreciate y'all. If there's something that you'd like to see me add, if we do a part 2 in the future, please feel free to let us know that as well. So have a great day. Roll Tide.